podcast is part of the Sports Social Podcast Network.
Thanks for choosing this free Anfield Index podcast. If you'd prefer to listen to this or any of our other shows without adverts, then now's the time to check out Anfield Index Pro. With AI Pro, you can supercharge your entire listening experience. You'll not only get all of our podcasts without the ads, but you'll have them far faster with our Quick Publish feature available exclusively for subscribers. AI Pro also puts you in the heart of our sound studio, with an option to listen to many of our shows live and interact with the podcasters in real time as the shows are recording. Upgrading couldn't be easier. AI Pro is available on all popular podcast platforms. Just head on over to AnfieldIndexPro.com and get started today.
Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchin. How are you, sir?
Fairly warm, Dave. How are you?
I'm not too bad. We are also joined today by Mr. Guy Drinkle. How are you, sir?
Also very warm.
In Iceland?
Is he on holiday?
Must be on holiday. Must be on an unsanctioned holiday. I'll have to make reports to Eddie and Craig.
Global warming.
Well, this is it. Climate change. It's a bitch. Right. We are going to have a little chat about last night's game, where Liverpool took on Arsenal in Philadelphia at Lincoln Field and were victorious by 2-1. So, Karl, just a quick overview. What did you make of the game? What did you make of the performance? Anything that stood out to you?
Yes. I think the first thing that stood out to me was the fact it was only 2-1, when I think it probably should have been at least 3-3 by half-time. Whether we want to attribute that to pre-season performances in the attacking half or the defensive half, I leave to the individual listener and or viewer. Definitely a few errors, let's say, which you'd hope by the time the competitive action kicks off is gone. That started right from the beginning with Kelleher being closed down a couple of times. I thought it was all right, to be honest. I was quite... Like, that midfield shape was really what I was watching for, and see how that changed. We did get Jota starting up front in the end as the number 9, so it was like someone to focal point the attack as such, or rather just to positionally focal point rather than, direct line. But yeah, it was quite interesting to see it, wasn't it? It was sort of the right-sided one, which we did already have previously as the more attack-minded one, but it was a proper move into number 10 sort of switch from the sort of right number 8. So that was quite intriguing to see. It wasn't hugely different, I wouldn't say, to what we've been seeing over the last year in terms of positions taken up on the pitch. Although defensively, you would say certainly a different approach from the fullbacks when we were in possession, where the positions they took up, when the ball was on the other side of the pitch, we just definitely didn't have both fullbacks pushing on as we usually would have done. So that was probably the biggest alteration, I would say, from this being my first viewing of Slot's side in action.
I thought it was a very flexible shape. Like, it was a 4-2-3-1 that became at times a 4-3-3, at times a 4-4-2, at times a 4-2-4. I thought the most interesting position was the left wing position, where Fabio Carvalho started last night. Because when under Jurgen Klopp, it would be the right-sided midfielder who would push forward more often than not. Generally, for most of his tenure, Jordan Henderson pushing forward to create a front four. But what we saw last night with Carvalho was that he was the one dropping back into midfield from the left wing position and forming a 3 at times. Now, Harvey would do it at times as well, but there was a number of occasions where Arsenal had the ball in their own defensive 30 with their goalkeeper, with a centre-back, and we had Harvey in the centre and Jota moving to the left, with Carvalho tucking back in to form a 3 with Curtis and Dominic. That's very similar to what he was using Paxio to do with Feyenoord. And when Arne was asked about his shape, he was asked about the 4-2-3-1, and he said, I would view it more as a 4-2-3-1. Now, a lot of Dutch coaches would say that wingers and a striker is 3 forwards. 2 midfielders and a 10 is 3 midfielders. So it is 4-3-3 regardless of what actual position they take up on the pitch. But last night it was almost as if Carvalho was that third midfielder. He played deeper than Harvey for long stretches of that game. And I did think that was quite interesting. And it also made me wonder, is that the ideal position then for Dominik Szoboszlai? When everybody's back, when we've made some additions, that position might actually be the one that suits Szoboszlai most. Now, he could obviously play the number 10 to a very high level as well, but there has been reports that he has trained in that left wing role, and watching it last night, it would make sense. It also made sense why Slot said, I have an idea for Fabio Carvalho, and Carvalho came out and said, well, I've been playing on the left wing. I've been training on the left wing. It's not a wing role as such. It's like a hybrid role that encompasses 2 or 3 different positions, but it's got great flexibility to it. And I really liked how fluid it's in the first half before the changes start getting made. I really liked how fluid the midfield and attack looked. There were definitely issues defensively, and we'll come on to that, but I just thought that the use of Carvalho last night really did make me wonder, what would Szoboszlai look like in that position?
So what did you make of Szoboszlai in the position he actually played?
I thought he did well. Like, he's not an option there long term. I don't care if he's played there for his national team. He's not an option there. That is a complete waste of him, and it's also just going to lead to defensive problems. Like, we were not as good defensively last night with him in that position as you would want us to be. And you said it, it could have been 3-3 at half time. I would have said it could have been like 4-2 or 4-3 to us, because I think we had more chances. I think over the course of the game, they had 2 shots on target, and also there was the Jarrell Quansah interception, which was outrageous defending. Like, that's the 3 they had. Whereas Jota obviously hits the post, and Harvey Elliott gets into 2 really good positions and makes a hames of it by swinging his right foot at it when he's got absolutely no right foot to his name. I thought, because of the makeup of the midfield, as hard as they did work, and Curtis and Dom, they worked their socks off last night, I did think it made us a little bit easy to play through at times, because there's just not a natural defensive midfielder between the pair of them.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that. I don't think it's certainly not the arrangement that we had there, but it did get me wondering how he thinks Szoboszlai's best traits are best used, because you can sort of pass it off if you want and say it's pre-season, it doesn't matter, and he was just playing people wherever they fit so that we could have a team out, basically. But I kind of felt it hinted at maybe McAllister playing that role again. Possibly he plays the Jones role. That's, sort of where we would more expect it. But I don't know. I guess it's good for Slot to see different ways of different players doing different jobs. That's obviously going to be an important thing as the season goes on.
Do we read anything into Endo not starting?
He didn't play well against Betis, so I didn't really expect him to start. There has been some reporting that Arne is not overly enthused by Endo. But I mean, just on Szoboszlai, there was reporting before the tour that given the lack of number 6 options in the squad, Szoboszlai was seen as an option there for this tour, but not beyond. And Arne was pretty clear after the Betis game that he wanted him in the final third. Yeah. I thought it was more notable that Szoboszlai started there and neither Morton nor Bajcetic did. Now, Bajcetic, you could say it's just a matter of managing his minutes and being very careful, which is fair. I think that needs to be the approach for the next 12 months with him, and try and get him 12 injury-free months so he can properly rebuild himself. But Tyler Morton played quite well when he came on for Endo against Betis. So I would have thought him starting there would have made a little bit more sense. Now, it might just be as well that Arne's trying to get a good look at certain other players. Like, he knows what Szoboszlai can do. He's seen enough of Szoboszlai on, from the footage he would have watched last season, from when he was at Leipzig, etc., etc. He might just really want to look at what Harvey looks like in this role, what Carvalho looks like in that role. And that might be part of why his thinking is, let's get those lads into those positions and see what they can offer. Particularly Carvalho, because obviously his future's up in the air at the club. And Szoboszlai can just fill in midfield and we'll be fine for this game.
Yeah, I would expect that there'll be plenty more alterations in that middle three over the next couple of games. Particularly against Sevilla, I would assume that we'll have many more people back and he'll want to get a good view of at least 3 other players in there. So factoring in that, plus the fact we may eventually sign someone in time for one of those games, whether we get another fixture arranged on short notice, let's say, before the actual start of the season against Ipswich, then there's still time to alter things around. From the 3 roles that we've seen at the minute, I would have thought for Bajcetic the ideal one is maybe the left-sided one, the one which is sort of a bit more half ball winning, half playing, but not too, should we say, athletically demanding initially.
Yeah, the McAllister Jones role.
Yeah, and then maybe later on as you sort of rebuild him and get him back to what he could be because of his sort of very rangy ability, where he looked like at the start he was an all-action kind of player, so maybe then you do want him a bit more on that right-hand side option, but we'll see.
The way I'd be looking at our midfield going into the season is, assuming we sign a defensive midfielder, and all signs are that is the plan, you'll have the defensive midfielder that comes in, plus Endo for that right-sided role. You'll have Alexis and Jones for the left-sided role, and then Bajcetic likely with more of a favour for the left-sided role, but also as cover for the right-sided role. So he'll be like the 5th one, and with the ability to kind of cover in both positions. But I don't think he's going to play a lot this season because of how much time he missed. Like, Dan Kennett was talking to Cy Brundish about this, and the sort of rule of thumb with these type of things is, for as long as you're out, it'll take you that long to get back to the level you were at before. So that's a long time for Bajcetic to kind of work his way back to a level which in truth was not good enough to be starting games for Liverpool if we want to be serious about winning things. But he will continue to develop because he's so young. So I think this coming season for him is going to very much be about fitness, learning the system, adapting to different things, just development of his own skill set. And then probably 25, 26, we'll see him take on more of a squad role, like an important squad role. I think this season he might flit in and out between the senior squad and the other 21 squad. I actually wouldn't be surprised if come January we sent him out on loan for a few months just to get him games. But I don't see him playing a ton for us this year. Guy, what did you make of the game last night? You obviously stayed up as well. All 3 of us good soldiers. What did you think, particularly the first half, when I think it was more telling because we had, not our first choice 11, but the best
not children.
There. Not children playing, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. No, I thought it was really good. Obviously, I think Arsenal pressed quite well in the first 10 minutes or so, maybe 15 minutes or so. But after that, when we started playing through their press, I thought we were excellent. Like, the midfield was, an issue's too strong a word because they're simply not, that's not their positions, as you both mentioned there. But I think the 2 centre-backs were excellent, Kwanzaa especially, but Sepp was good more in like just a, kind of what you want from a centre-back. He didn't do anything massively flashy, he was just winning his duel.
He was really good, yeah.
Yeah, he was in the right positions. Whereas Kwanzaa, that block on the... was it Martinelli who passed it across? That was fantastic. Bradley was good, getting up and down again. Moore's just fantastic. Like, I know you was loose with the ball a few times, but there was an outside the foot pass towards the end of the half, I think after the wall.
Towards Bradley.
Yeah, it was just, I reckon he's going to cook this season. Jota may have been drunk. He may have learnt the offside rule this pre-season from Darwin somehow, and his finishing, but it just showed as a complete system now that we have an actual striker there, what we can do. Because I don't think hold-up play is something we put as a strength of Jota. It's something that I think was always all right. And I know it's only pre-season, I'm very much getting ahead of myself. Well, that first goal, you can see Darwin doing that. If Jota's doing that after a week and a bit of training under this blow, I mean, hopefully Darwin can take stuff like that. Because we saw his link-up play improve massively last season. So if there's other levels to go up in that, I'm going to be so intrigued to see what he can do there. But in terms of other stuff, I mean, Elliott was a bit loose with the ball a few times. You mentioned he doesn't have a right foot, and I think that broke down a couple of attacks. But if we just simply want end product in the final third, he has that quality. And if he's just on the edge of the box doing little passes like he did to Carvalho, and the through ball to Moore was fantastic as well, it's going to be, I think it might be his best season yet, which might just be natural progression. But if we find this 10 position suits him better than the very attacking 8 position, I think he's going to blow up. But I think coming out of it, Carvalho didn't have like an amazing game, but he took his goal well. And
I don't need a VPN. I've got nothing to hide. Ha. This is what I used to tell myself before I hooked up with LibertyShield.com. Not only is my home internet now fully encrypted, but I can now access all the websites I want, whenever I want, and do so from absolutely anywhere. As a Liverpool fan, I love to know I can now watch every match, regardless of whether it's on UK TV or not. My Liberty Shield VPN makes sure nothing is blocked and guarantees me super fast streaming speed throughout that match. You can get connected right now with their software package, which includes a 48-hour no-obligation free trial and instant access to their apps for Apple, Android, Fire TV, PC, Mac and Android TV. Or go a step further like I have and get one of their pre-configured VPN routers. These small but powerful devices allow you to easily connect every device in your home to VPN, making it the perfect solution for smart TVs, Mac boxes and games consoles. Visit LibertyShield.com today and use coupon code AIVPN25 to get 25% off at checkout.
The timing of his run was what really impressed me about the goal, because he waited and waited to go on that run, and it was perfect, and it was a lovely ball by Harvey. Now, Harvey played 2 great passes in that first. I mean, the first one for Mo is a fairly simple pass, but it's a first-time pass, and he's playing it at speed, and he puts it perfectly into where Mo wants it. The pass for the Carvalho goal is absolutely gorgeous, especially as he's slightly off balance as he plays it. He played one simple ball to Jota as well, and it should have been his 3rd assist. Other than that, I thought he absolutely stank the place out in the first half. I thought his decision-making, other than those 3, was absolutely honking. His right foot is an abomination. His passing was so loose, his decision-making was poor. But he played, this is what you were saying. Like, if you're just looking for that end product, if you're willing to deal with the other issues, which are basically just all young player issues, no, getting a little bit carried away with certain things, being a little bit overambitious with things, making the wrong decision, trying to do things a little bit too quickly, or taking a little bit too much out of the ball, which he did at times. If you just want that end product, there's absolutely no question that, like, he could get in a full Premier League season playing in that shape, in that system, with Mo and with Darwin, with potentially then Szoboszlai off the left, which is where he would go if Harvey was the 10, Alexis as the attacking 8, or the attacking one in the double pivot. Like, there's a lot of goals in that group, and with Harvey's ability to pick that final ball, he could get, 15, 16 Premier League assists, but you would have to compensate for the other things he'll do that are not ideal.
Yeah, You could arguably say the same about Carvalho. Now,
Sure.
Carvalho's not going to have as many minutes as someone like Harvey Elliott. But if he's on the bench and we're looking for a goal, like just simply finding a goal, scrambling the box, you'd probably pick Carvalho over someone like Luis Diaz. Maybe Gakpo's a bit more debatable, but if you're just looking for an impact off the bench to score a goal, now Diaz is obviously a better player, a better winger, but if we're just looking for impact subs, I could see some like Carvalho doing stuff like that, because as a second, he played, obviously he's like a second striker for Fulham. We can obviously tinker our 10 role in certain situations. If we just want someone to run beyond Darwin or whoever the hell's up front, you can see a use for him. I know he's 22 now, so he's times on his side, but times against him in terms of his Liverpool career, you'd probably say. But there's clearly a plan for him. Like Arne Slot, if he got word from Hughes and Edwards saying, yeah, he's off, he won't be doing this, trying to convince him he can play this left wing in his position.
Yeah,
so there's clearly something
as many minutes to him. Like I was watching it last night, and I want to get Karl in here, but I was watching it last night, and as I was I was reconfiguring what I think the front four could look like, and I was like, right, Dom on the left with Gakpo as the backup to him, because that role, as it was played last night, now it might change once Diaz is back. We have to remember that all of this is fluid because of the personnel available, but as we played last night, Dom with Gakpo as the backup, Darwin with Jota as the backup, Harvey with Carvalho as the backup, and Salah. And that would make Diaz the backup there. Now, obviously, Diaz doesn't bring the same goal threat as Mo, but he does have good pace. He can run in behind. And if he's playing on the right, it might simplify his game. So you could reconfigure things so everybody gets in. But I agree with you. Like, if we're in a game where that front four has started, Mo right, Dominic and Harvey in the kind of central roles, and Darwin and Harvey in the central kind of roles, and Dominic in that kind of roving left-sided role, and you were looking to bring someone off the bench, Jota is obviously number one, but Carvalho might be number two, even ahead of Gakpo, just because he's a little bit nippier. Now, over distance, Gakpo is faster, but over a short distance, Carvalho is very, very nippy. He's got good change of direction. He's got really good movement. And he does seem to have good instincts once he's in and around the goal. So I could see that. I could see him sticking around. If Harvey is the ordained 10, which he may be, he may not be, we may look to do something in the attack. We don't know yet. I could see a world in which Carvalho was the backup to him. Now, he might not play every game as a backup. There might be games where Dominic plays the 10 or Gakpo plays the 10 and Carvalho gets a little bit frustrated. But just if we're lining players up of two for each position, that might work for him. Karl, what did you make of Carvalho first, and what do you see his role being moving forward? Or does he have a role moving forward? And what did you think of Harvey last night?
Harvey was quite easy. I would go along with a lot of what you said. I think he was really, really wasteful in terms of his decision making. Like, he hesitated too much. He tried to do a little bit too many touches, or didn't try to do very routine, quick things, which would have sped up the course of play. On the other hand, because he's playing that number 10 role, he may well have been instructed to have a bit more authority, to have a bit more responsibility in him choosing where he wants to be playing that ball. So, not going to say he did wrong. As I said, first viewing, so not ready to jump to too many conclusions straight away on that, but he definitely had the opportunity to do more than he did. However, the things that he did in basically assisting 3 great chances were really good, really, really good execution. So fine from that perspective. I'm not sure I loved the sort of settling into almost 4-2-4 when they're starting from goal kicks, restarts, that kind of thing. With Elliott being one of those, obviously bypassing him to midfield where we'd be 3 against 2 until the wider forwards drop back in. You're not going to lose out magnificently defensively if that's Elliott who's left out of that sort of zone. because it has been obviously a slightly weaker point of his, but also I'm not really sure he is the one to offer the sort of aggression and speed of closing down that ideally makes that sort of two-man press from the very top work that well. We'll see, but maybe that was, again, just a bit of a personnel thing or an in-game thing, or maybe we won't see it as a two-person central first line of stopping, basically. So I'm fine with what he did. Again, pre-season, I don't really care, but positionally, I think he took up some really, really great spots, but the final execution wavered between very good and very poor. Carvalho is a bit of a different one. I don't think he was hugely involved. I think he was fine in terms of his position. Like, he stuck wide when he needed to. He obviously had that drop deep for out of possession play. I just don't think he impacts the game, I'll be honest. I know he's got like really, really good technical ability, and that's great. And if you want an impact sub with someone who could still get a bit better, fine. But I don't think he's of the level personally. Like he's, Guy just mentioned he's literally just had his birthday. He's now 22. Did you say, Guy?
22, yeah.
So, yeah, I think so. Yeah.
For me, he's not there. And I'll be honest, if our starting squad options for that number 10, as we're calling it, role were Elliott and Carvalho, I'd be really disappointed. I don't think that's strong. I really don't.
It's not ideal. It's definitely not ideal. I'm just looking at from the current squad at the moment.
Yeah.
But as I
said,
said,
I get that.
you could parachute Dom or Gakpo into that role. I mean, you could play Gravenberch maybe in that role as well, just for someone that's got a bit more size and physicality. You wanted a different look. You could maybe play Jota and Darwin as those two. You could bring Mo into that 10 role. It was just literally put two players in each position. Yeah. But I agree, I don't want to go into the season with Harvey Elliott as a starter person. I think Harvey as the backup is ideal. But then you might have to rejig something else. And I don't really know how much we're going to do this month. I think we'll get two in, but I think there'll be a midfielder and a defender. I don't know that we're going to add in that attack.
Yeah, I feel along the same lines unless somebody departs. Obviously, Diaz being the first potential option there. From again, just that first viewing and the way that they did pick up positions and stuff, I know Szoboszlai playing in the forward line is like a thing we'd like to see, and certainly in the way that it was done last night, I could see him playing from that left-hand side. But I think if I was picking who fits best and for the team to be at its best level, I would say Szoboszlai as that 10, and I would say Cody Gakpo as that left-hand side one, over Diaz.
I can see that. I can see that for sure.
It makes a lot more sense for Gakpo to be playing from the left in a hybrid role than it does to be from basically a number 8 again as a hybrid role, even if that is moving into the 10. Because Carvalho, you saw getting into a centre-forward position, which is, I would say, Gakpo's secondary role, let's say, much more than 8 or 10.
Yeah, I thought that the position had a lot of freedom, and we saw Carvalho moving all over the pitch. Like, there was times where he tucked in as the left-sided one in the midfield. There was times he was on the right of Dominic. He seemed to have a lot of freedom, and you could see Gakpo, with his intelligence and his technical ability, able to do quite a lot in those roles if he was to drop in and pick the ball up and start to carry it.
Yeah,
we saw Carvalho with a lot of space, and at times getting into space and then getting frustrated that he wasn't getting the ball. And I did wonder, is that just a thing where your teammates don't fully trust you with the ball? Whereas I think they would trust Cody a lot more, which could lead to Cody picking the ball up 20, 25 yards from goal with time and space to pick a pass or get a shot away. And I think Cody could do damage in that role. But again, I was looking at it through the eyes of, I think Szoboszlai would absolutely be dynamite in that role. But yeah, I think Harvey as the 10, or Dominic as the 10, Cody off the left could work. I also think it could work the other way.
Yeah,
I think it could work with Cody playing in that kind of 10 second striker role. But like you said, he is best off the left. That is where he's kind of made his name, is coming off the left with some freedom like he had at PSV.
I think if you look at the the gaps of where Carvalho picked up possession sometimes, even a little bit deeper than where you're saying Gakpo will be shooting from. If you have, shall we say, Netherlands Gakpo and his ability to pick up the ball and charge with it from that sort of 40 yards deep in that channel, that's something very, very quickly which fits in with where Carvalho was picking it up last night. But it's just a one attribute, one trait, one particular part of the position. So lots more to develop on it, I think.
Because his name's gone around, I want to ask both of you this question. Anthony Gordon's been linked to Liverpool this summer. We know that. There's reports that there was a deal agreed in principle, or the parameters of the deal agreed in principle in June for Anthony Gordon. Watching last night, there's absolutely no way Anthony Gordon fits that left-sided role, if that's what the left-sided role is going to be. If it's going to be the way he used Paxi, it does not fit Anthony Gordon at all. The only position in that team last night that would fit him would be where Mo was playing. But Anthony Gordon, just because of his pace and his ability to run in behind, but Anthony Gordon has never shown himself to be a particularly good player off the right. It takes away his ability to cut inside and get onto a stronger right foot. I'd imagine he's maybe scored 2 or 3 of his 20 career goals with his left foot. I don't see him being a particularly good fit on that right-hand side. Looking long-term post-Mo, if Mo were to leave next summer, the more I've watched this team under Slot, the more Feyenoord I've watched, I just don't see him as a particularly good fit in how we play, in how we're going to play. I think under Klopp, he would have made a ton of sense as an inside forward. In that old Sadio Mane role, he would be a better fit in that role than Luis Diaz has been. But I don't see him fitting particularly well into Arne's setup other than the Salah role. And being honest, we're not going to spend 80 million or more on a player to be a backup to Salah. And I don't see him being the one there long term. Now, maybe you feel differently.
No, we discussed a bit of Gordon last time out, obviously, and I don't think that I would be keen to pay that amount for that quality player where he is right now, regardless of where he would be playing, to be perfectly honest. So I don't think he's a perfect fit for any of those roles that we saw. To be honest, the only one I could even say that maybe it would make sense is sort of second half. Obviously, we saw a little bit of a system change because of the younger players and a bit more simplified game role. So, way that Trey was playing it, for example, a bit more similar, but we didn't have much of the ball. It was a bit more counter-attacky. So, again, you can't read too much into that anyway.
No. Guy, what did you think last night, looking at it through how would Gordon fit into this team?
Would he do a job as a 9? I don't think so, unless it's a counter-attacking situation. Because how old is he? 23?
23. 24 in February, I think. Right.
So he's obviously not, just on the verge of retirement, but at that age, do you really want to be turning a winger into a striker? I suppose it's worked with someone like Jared Bowen, but that's a bit different. Could you play him as a striking option, then succeed more? But as you said, he doesn't play on the right. Then we'd have to flip the system and then move Dom to the right and put Gordon on the left. And I think ultimately the thing for me is, you mentioned there, 80 million. I probably would have been okay if it was the Joe Gomez thing, because then ultimately it's 30 mil plus Joe Gomez, who's 4th, 5th choice centre-back and versatile. I was like, yeah, that's fine. But if he's to become our record signing, look at our other highest ones. Virgil, transformative. Ali, transformative. That's the new old regime. Then you look at the other ones. Darwin.
Not so transformative.
I think he's falling more into the Darwin camp than the Virgil and Ali camp.
Hey guys, it's Eddie Gibbs from Anfield Index here. I hope you're enjoying this podcast, and I'm sorry to call time on the show before it ends. In the current climate, it's tougher than ever before to offer podcasts for free. At Anfield Index, we produce over 75 free shows every month, which I'm confident is unparalleled in the LFC sphere. Whilst we'd love to offer everything for free, the production costs now make this impossible. That said, we don't want to follow the model of other channels and lock all of our content behind a paywall. So what we've decided to do is to continue offering every show for free, but cut that offering to 30 minutes on our longer shows. So to get all of our shows in full and enjoy the best of everything we have to offer, we really hope you'll consider supporting the channel and signing up at AnfieldIndexPro.com. For about the price of 1 cup of coffee, you'll get every podcast in full with 0 ads. You'll also get access to our LFC VIP community, where you can enjoy live podcasts, engage with our podcasters, and chat with other Reds in real time. So that website again, AnfieldIndexPro.com. Join today.
Sports Social Podcast Network.